Hello, in this video we're going to learn to move around in YAG. So first, don't forget you can always bring up the PDF cheat sheet by pressing F3. This PDF contains all the shortcuts you need for everything on 4 panels. Then you have this semi-transparent panel on the right, which gives you some available commands in real time. For example, if I select a pawn, it will tell me what I can do with a selected pawn, and if I unselect it, those controls will disappear. I'm going to hide it here because I don't need it and it takes some screen space, but it will be a great help, especially for newcomers. Finally, you can always display the virtual keyboard here that will show you all the available keys. All keys are clickable. For example, if I want to know what I can do with the mouse wheel, it's all there. So let's start with the basics. First, to rotate your view, hold the mouse wheel button down and move your mouse. You can then move in the 6 direction using the standard WASD QE keys. Okay. Your speed can be seen here under the HUD speedometer. If you need a speed boost, you can get one by pressing the Shift key. This will multiply your speed by 10 as long as you're holding. You can manually change your speed by scrolling the mouse wheel up and down. And finally, you can reset your speed by double-clicking the mouse wheel. This puts the speed back to 1. This covers the absolute basics and will allow you to fly anywhere on the map. The next way to move around is related to pawns, so let me give you a quick reminder of how to move them on the ground. So you have to select the target pawn, hold the right mouse button, choose a destination, and when you release the button, the pawn will go to its new destination. Of course, pawns can be moved in any direction in space with a few options, but you can watch the dedicated tutorial videos for that. What we just saw here will be enough for the rest of this video. So at the moment, the movement of pawns and of our camera are completely independent. I can take the Medusa and send it away while minding my own business. But we can also link our camera to a pawn. This is done by selecting or hovering the pawn and pressing the F key here. So when attached to a pawn, the controls are slightly different. I can now rotate around the pawn and zoom in and out with the mouse wheel. The HUD now indicates the zoom distance instead of the speed. And as always, double-clicking the mouse wheel will reset to the default distance. So I can now move the pawn and my view remains attached to it, which gives us another way to move in YAG using pawns. In this mode, we can still freely move our camera, so if I use the WASD QE keys, I will simply automatically detach from the current pawn. Another use of that feature is that it allows us to jump to any pawn that we are currently seeing. We simply have to hover the pawn and press F. Okay, so here I'm going to jump to the fire and to the succubus here, back to the Medusa. So on large maps, it's a great way to quickly jump to any visible and selectable pawns. We can now go one step further by possessing the pawn when attached to it. This is done by enabling the possession option either by pressing the G key here on the keyboard or through the UI on the player's options here. Okay, and you can see that when I press G, it enables or disables the option. Another way to see if the option is enabled is to look at the HUD right here. And you can see that when the possession mode is enabled, you've got that small icon showing right here. So let's enable it. And I'm going to use a pawn with a nice flying animation to show you that. So let's go to the succubus here. So when I possess it by pressing F again, the first thing is that I can now control it directly with the WASD QE keys or the gamepad. Another consequence of that option is that not only our location but also our rotation is now linked to the pawn. This allows us to keep any relative view of the pawn, including first or third person views. The third person view is the default one, and we get it by double clicking the mouse wheel. And if we zoom to the max limit, we end up in first person view. Okay, back to third person. To detach from a possessed pawn, we cannot just move around because the displacement keys WASD QE are used to control the pawn. So when possession is enabled, we have to press F again to leave the pawn and come back to our free flight mode. With that tool, we can move around in a pawn in first or third person view, or as a matter of fact, any other view that we fancy. Finally, there are ways to quickly teleport to pawns. First, we can simply use the H key here on the keyboard. That will transport us to every pawn that is available to us circularly. When there aren't too many pawns on the map, it's a very fast way to visit them all and retrieve a lost one. But we need something more efficient when there are many pawns. So for that, we can define cameras, and if, as a dungeon master, we take the time to prepare a few cameras beforehand, this can be extremely powerful. As a quick example, we'll define 3 cameras here. So for the first one, I'm going to take control of the Medusa, go in first person, and I'll create a camera either by clicking the plus button here or by pressing the K key on the keyboard. So let's create the view, and we'll call it Medusa first person. Next, I'm going to jump to the succubus and choose a nice side view here that I'm going to call succubus side. And finally, I'm going to detach from everything and create a fixed general view that I'm going to call, guess what? General view. So of course, cameras are a powerful tool in their own right, but in the context of this video, they can be used for fast transportation using those go-to buttons. So I can come back in a click to my general view or take control of the succubus here or the Medusa in first person. Okay. Finally, we can use the full pawns list panel, which is here. We can retrieve our target pawn either by having a look at it using the view buttons here, or if we correctly named our pawns with unique identifiers by using the available manual or automatic filters. So this can be a bit cumbersome when there are hundreds of pawns on the map, so I would not recommend this method as a first choice, but it's useful to keep in mind it's there because without any sort of preparation, it will allow you to quickly retrieve and go to any pawn. Okay, this will conclude this video. There are other ways using some special pawns options, or the Dungeon Master can also teleport the players in places, but we've seen most of what's needed to very efficiently go anywhere in YAG, and as you can see, it can be pretty powerful. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if yes, then see you in the next. Bye.